Eye of Hurricane Matthew made landfall just after 1 p.m. as a Category 4 storm near Mexico Beach, Florida. It now is a Category 3. South Carolina is at OPCON 3. The state of emergency our state was under because of Hurricane Florence has been extended to Hurricane Michael because of flooding. The question now is what to expect in the Midlands. We have team coverage with Greg Adeline, Caroline Hecker, and Emily Scarlett. First, Chief Meteorologist Demenis Brown now on what the Midlands could be facing as the storm moves this way. Demenis?
Dondi, let's talk about what we are expecting as we go through the next several hours here with Michael. This is a storm that has been very strong over the course of the day, and now you'll notice at the center of the storm, the eye of it is over areas in southwest Georgia, south and west of Albany, Georgia as well. And you'll see these rain bands whipping around the center of the storm, creating a lot of showers, a lot of thunderstorms, even as far north as North Georgia and metro Atlanta. And we're also seeing some of that moisture here in the Palmetto State, right across the Midlands. Over the course of the day, we're seeing some of that moisture moving through. And as we go through tonight, our weather conditions will start going downhill. So let's talk about this storm. This is still the 6 p.m. update from the National Hurricane Center with sustained winds at 115 miles an hour. And it's moving to the northeast at 13 miles an hour, a very large storm. And what I want you to understand is that this is a completely different storm than Florence. Okay, this storm will pack some rain, also some wind with it, and that threat of isolated tornadoes as well. Each storm has its own personality, and with this one, we have that tornado threat here, and we need to be mindful of that and prepare ourselves for it as well. Also, with the strong winds, we could be looking at some downed trees or power lines that can cause some power outages. A look at the forecast track, and there's not a lot that has changed. The only thing you will see that's different is that this cone of uncertainty is a little bit smaller. That means there's a lot of consistency and a lot of confidence with this forecast that we will see some effects from this system in some shape, form, or fashion, especially as we go through tomorrow morning and the early part of the afternoon as a tropical storm over the area. Yeah, you're thinking right now it's a hurricane, then it'll weaken to a tropical storm. You got to understand these storms, as they weaken, they spread out a lot of energy. So we're going to be right in the path of this storm, meaning we're going to see some of that energy here in the form of rain and some wind. Also, the isolated tornado threat that will be here as well as we go through the morning and into the afternoon. So looking at Futurecast hour by hour, you will see the clock at the top of the screen, and there will be some showers and bands across the area as early as 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, starting mainly from southwest, moving to northeast as we go through the morning. So this is around 5 a.m. Not a great time for any early risers. Not a great time because some of you might still be asleep. And so you need to have that First Alert app and that NOAA weather radio ready to go just in case we start having severe storms. Then we'll start rolling the clock again, 6 a.m. in the morning, then 7 o'clock in the morning. Still some heavy rainfall and bands across the area. And this tropical storm at this point, most likely a tropical storm, will be rotating counterclockwise against the clock. So there will be some areas that might get some breaks in it as we'll have some dry air wrapping around the center of the storm, but still spinning like a pinwheel. So there will be some bands rotating around the center, and then some folks might get a bit of a break. Then another heavy band comes through. And then once we move into the early afternoon, that's around the noon hour, you'll start noticing some of the rainfall letting up. But the storm is still across the area spinning. By the time we head into about 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the storm starts moving away, but we'll still have some of those residual winds with us. So it's going to be still breezy at times as we go into the evening hours. We've been saying area-wide that there could be between 3 and 6 inches of rain. Some areas might see more like 3 inches. Some areas might see up to 6 inches, depending on where you are. The forecast models have been painting a little bit more rainfall possible for our western and also northern areas, including portions of Richland County. But some other models have been saying that we could see a strip of some heavier rain in our eastern areas. So it's really going to depend on where you are, but 3 to 6 inches overall. And as I wind down first weather here, I want you to understand that as we see the storm getting closer, our winds will start picking up a bit. So you'll see some of the wind gusts here upwards to around 41 in Orangeburg early in the morning, 44 for Aiken, up to around 50 by 8 a.m. on Thursday for Orangeburg. For the capital city here, close to 40, and then it goes up a bit from there. Then we'll have a wraparound effect where some areas might see more winds picking up as we go through the day as the storm starts to exit. Still a lot more to talk about with Michael and your First Alert forecast all coming up.
We'll check in with you again in a moment, Demenis. Thank you. And we want to show you now video of Hurricane Matthew taken from the International Space Station just as that hurricane made landfall in the Florida Panhandle. Wind speeds were measured at 155 miles an hour. The National Hurricane Center is calling it the strongest storm to make landfall in the continental U.S. since 1992, when Hurricane Andrew hit. Well, Michael hit the panhandle between Mexico Beach and nearby Panama City Beach. The storm has ripped roofs to shreds. It has demolished buildings and flooded roads. And as you can imagine, with it headed this way, several schools, cities, and events are going to be closed tomorrow, including the South Carolina State Fair. You can find more closings on WISTV.com. Again, we emphasize the storm could bring heavy rain and wind gusts to the Midlands area. You can see wind and rain already causing problems in Albany, Georgia. If we show you that, residents there have been urged to watch for debris and flooding in low-lying streets. There's also the potential for power outages, of course. Greg Adeline continues our team coverage now. He's in Aiken, where the governor spoke earlier today at the Emergency Management Division there. Greg?
Good evening to you, Dondi. Right now, the position from the governor is that the emergency operations are standing by, waiting to see exactly what Michael does. But as for right now, it really is a tale of two hurricanes. You'll remember several weeks ago, Hurricane Florence was spinning for quite some time just off the coast. It was expected to be a huge rainmaker. It certainly was. It created all sorts of flooding problems in the state of South Carolina, and for that reason alone, there was a huge ramp up in terms of the types of warnings that were given from state officials. We had several press conferences over several days, even ahead of the storm finally making landfall. And so now with Hurricane Michael, it would seem that this is somewhat of a lesser response. The governor earlier today said that there is a reason for that. The reason being, by the time Hurricane Michael makes its way to South Carolina, it will be a weaker storm, but will still have some impacts nonetheless. This is what he had to say earlier during the press conference at the Emergency Management Division here in Aiken County. Take a listen.
Well, we always have to be prepared. Better to be prepared, and we always hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. But again, this storm at this point in South Carolina, our expectations here are that we will not reach the size and dimensions of what we had recently in Florence. But we just need to be prepared. It will mainly be some heavy rains and some winds up to 40 or 60 miles an hour. And there could be tornadoes. So stay alert, stay informed with the local authorities, and we'll be okay.
And so there you heard it, the governor saying that the state is ready to respond as conditions warrant. Of course, we'll be keeping a close eye on this storm as it approaches the Midlands. But for now, we are live in Aiken County. Greg Adeline, WIS News 10. Let's send it back to you, Dondi.
All right, Greg, thank you so much. And state officials are encouraging people to remain vigilant because of the risk of flash flooding and also power outages. Caroline Hecker joins us now from the Columbia Speedway in Casey, where utility crews are definitely on standby. Caroline?
Well, there's about 50 utility trucks here along the speedway. Like you said, everyone's still in that standby mode. Multiple companies here, but they are gearing up for what could be a very, very long night ahead of them. And Greg touched on this. Hurricane Florence and Hurricane Michael are two completely different storms that pose different kinds of threats to the Midlands, but they've also been different in the approach and the response by both people out in the Midlands as well as state and local government leaders. Like he touched on, we had lots of press conferences leading up to Hurricane Florence's arrival. We really haven't seen that this time around. So we got out and talked with people in the Midlands about whether they're concerned this time around or not. Let's take a listen to what they had to say.
I've already seen statuses on Facebook like, oh, nothing happened in Florence, nothing's going to happen with Michael. But I mean, every severe weather threat should be taken seriously.
Just remember, everybody, stay safe tonight. Stay away from those down power lines and make sure you have your patience cap on. These men and women out here are working very, very hard to restore any power that may go out. Live in Casey, Caroline Hecker, WIS News 10.
State officials addressed the state earlier. City officials did as well for our capital city. Welcome now, Mayor Steve Benjamin. Earlier when you had a press conference for everyone and we took that live, and one thing you said to our viewers and everyone listening throughout the capital city area is that a lot of people are suffering with what you called hurricane fatigue.
Sure.
I do sense a malaise because people are just, it's like, wow, we just got through this with Florence and now we're having to deal with it again with Michael.
It's so incredibly dangerous, Dondi. I mean, the reality is that this is a serious storm. This is a dangerous storm. And the long run up to Hurricane Florence and the preparation and not having a significant event here, I think puts us in a dangerous position of being overly comfortable. We need to still prepare for this as if it is the great event that it is. And I want to make sure our citizens know that there's some very basic things that we can all do. We have them on our website at columbiasc.net. Encourage people. Let's prepare for this as if it is what it is, a major storm. And let's do what we can to keep ourselves safe, keep our families safe, and then the other side of Michael will all come out happy and healthy.
You're trying to get your constituents, everyone throughout the greater Columbia area to listen to that. As far as city workers and those officials in charge, specifically with the dams and such and bridges, talk about how you've had to kind of keep a little fire under them as well to keep that energy up. And also I want to get an update on the condition of bridges because we are expecting more rain with this one.
I couldn't be more proud of our staff, our city employees working with our county and state and federal employees are really working together every single day, communicating with our business leaders, our neighborhood leaders, as well as our nonprofit partners, taking care of those who may be less fortunate, our homeless citizens, working closely with our hospitals and others, just making sure we're crossing T's and dotting I's, staging events where places that we know will flood, making sure that we have a barricade station there. We need to encourage our citizens. Let's all do our part. Let's stay off the roads. If we can, our city's closed tomorrow, the county's closed, our schools are closed. This is a perfect time to spend quality time at home with our family. Perfect time. Let's stay at home. If we stay off the roads and avoid dangerous situations, then we can make sure our first responders are available to respond to people who need them at this time. So I want to encourage people, follow us on Twitter at City of Columbia. WIS does a great job retweeting everything that we send out as well. But let's stay engaged and make sure we're all doing our respective parts in keeping everyone safe. I will tell you that preparing for flooding, making sure that we're working to mitigate flooding, significant investment, almost $100 million in stormwater improvements across the city. We're doing the things that we should be doing, but obviously the things that we can't control, we need to make sure that we do all that we can to keep our families safe in this dangerous time.
We'll continue talking with you and getting the word out to the area. Columbia Mayor Steve Benjamin, thank you. As always, appreciate that. And in the Midlands, farmers are making special preparations for their crops and animals as well. That story is coming up right after the break. And of course, we will continue tracking the storm, Hurricane Michael, in your first alert forecast still ahead.
It's unbelievable.